Hello, my name is Mimi. I'm an occupational therapist and spiritual counselor, and welcome back to this podcast that hopefully by now has a name. So, this podcast is all about exploring spirituality through motherhood and through the medium of storytelling, the medium of different modalities, and allowing you to explore your soul purpose, your soul connectivity to yourself in this lifetime and to the children that you connect with in this lifetime. Now, that could be through children that you have birthed, children that you adopt, children that you foster. I believe that children find their guides in this lifetime, and it is their calling to us. We are not there to dictate. We are there to guide them in this lifetime. So I want to give a little bit of background about my kind of journey, and there are so many different stories that I could go into. But I want to focus about a previous or past life and how I know that I've acquired all this knowledge. So, astrology is something that is very, very close to my heart. Astrology is something that I use within my one to one coaching and through packages that I deliver. It's also the focus with some of the knowledge that I share online, whether it's acquiring uh, knowledge about the moon, channeling messages about the moon, which, by the way, is the eternal feminine, the mother. I love to focus on astrology in that way. Now, I want to share a little bit about my personal birth chart, and I'm going to focus on the moon, as I mentioned for now. So, I am a Capricorn moon. I'm a Capricorn moon, and you see a lot of things about moon placements, but being a Capricorn moon often is attached to having quite a difficult relationship with your own mother. And that was my experience. So, growing up, I had a very tumultuous relationship with my mother internally, but on the surface, everything seemed fine. On the surface, my mum was a provider. On the surface, she was the head of the household, the one who looked after me, took care of everything, made sure I was fed, watered, dressed, the best education, etc. But things behind the scenes were very complicated. Now, my mum's a Sagittarius, a very expressive, freedom seeking woman, a stereotypical Sagittarius, but she had her own ways of coping with life, should we say, that weren't so easy for me as a child. Now, I'm a Pisces native, I'm a Pisces sun, and I was all about connectivity through sensitivity, so the emotions, feeling into things and being led by my intuition, and that was the polar opposite of my mum's expression. So already we had a bit of friction just based off our sun signs. But going back to the moon, my mum had a very particular way of expressing herself and expressing her expectations on me. That was quite difficult as a child to experience, but looking back, all of the lessons that I have acquired, all of the lessons that I have learned have been because I had such a difficult relationship with my mum. Now, when I was younger, I always used to say to myself that I want to learn from this experience. I want to be able to turn this, so transmute, turn this pain that I'm experiencing into power. And what I meant by that at the time was that when I become a mother, I want to love, nurture my child with softness, with a purity, with safety, with protection. I want to be able to guide a child or children in this lifetime with love. And I want them to know that they always have a home with me. So everything that I felt that I didn't have within my own maternal relationship, I knew from when I was a teenager that that is exactly what I want to do. I wanted to do the opposite in order to provide a layer or a safety or a container for my child or children. So that is what sparked my journey. That is what really catalyzed me into knowing, discovering who I am so that I can try to embody that and work towards that. This was a massive, massive motivation for me. One of the massive motivations for me into delving into spirituality. The second layer to that was that I struggled with my periods when I was younger. I mean, I say when I was younger, it started when I was younger. So when I say struggled, I always had regular cycles, but with every cycle, I was in debilitating pain. And I mean to the point where I could not move. I can feel it in my room coming up now. I couldn't move. Lights had to be off, low stimulus, and I would vomit at every single period. Now, with that, I would also not be able to really function. So, school then turned into work. I would always have to take days off because I was wiped out. I went through countless doctor's appointments trying to advocate for myself to be seen by a gynecologist, all for it to amount to an undiagnosed issue. Now, through that journey, through my learning, what I understood or what I uncovered was that, and I'll go into it in a further episode, I'm sure, I was holding on to unresolved trauma. Now, it wasn't unresolved from my physical body, but it was from my ancestry. So we're talking generational trauma here that I had acquired and stored and held within my womb. Now, because of that, I also started to hold on to a belief that I would never have children. I used to cry when I was like 12 or 13, and I'm like now, like being in my 30s, I think back to that, I think, wow, what a sad thing for a child to mentally go through. I used to cry and I used to think to myself, I'll never become a mother. Like, it's just not in my destiny. My body is attacking me at every moment, at every cycle. It will never be a part of me, a part of my destiny. And I used to cry a lot. And with this, unlocked my visions. This pain, again, thinking about the power of transmutation, this pain then turned into visitations. So I used to have a little girl that would come and sit on my bed every single time I would cry about not having children. She would sit on my bed and she would say to me, you know, it's okay, mummy. You will meet me one day. I will be your child one day. And that is something that's quite a personal share, but that kept me going for years, for absolute years, knowing that these visions that I had about a baby would come into fruition. So naturally, I wanted to share that as part of the foundations to my origin story. And as I progress into the journey of this podcast, I'm sure my origin story will continue to unfold. But taking it back to my personal astrology, there are so many things that I learned throughout my astrology, and every time I go back to my natal chart, I see it in a different lens and I view things in a different way. So, as I mentioned, I'm a Capricorn moon, and my Capricorn moon sits in my fifth house. I'm not going to go into the houses, but what I understood from being a Capricorn moon was the difficulty in my relationship with my mother. But what I then started to see was the loyalty aspect and the grounding that I can provide as a nurturer when I then become a guide or become a mother. And when I really started to tap into that energy, it started to make me feel a bit more comfortable with owning the difficult aspects, because with all of astrology, with all of kind of the realm of spirituality, there's duality. There's going to be the light, there's going to be the dark, there's going to be the shadow, and the things that we need to step into, and the things that we also need to learn to embrace. So, with being a Capricorn moon, it provides that sense of loyalty. So, really being a ride or die mother, that energy of, I will always be there for you no matter what. You will always have that foundation of home, foundation of safety when it comes to me. So, really owning that has been powerful in my journey to becoming a mother, because I know that, again, something that my soul was chasing is actually within my birth chart. So as we progress, you'll start to understand that the very things that your soul pulls you to are the things that your soul already possesses. You will already have these traits as part of you, and it's down to you to learn, to discover, so that you can bring and pull that energy into this lifetime, so that you can anchor it and ground into it. And I think that's beautiful that we have so many different modalities that we can understand about ourselves so that we can really harness the power of them all. So, another thing that I learned about myself was really understanding the North and the South node. So, I personally have a North node in Capricorn, which tells me a lot about what I want to or what I am striving for in this lifetime and what I need to achieve, what's highlighted in my sense of achievement. But what the South Node does is it tells you what you might have focused on in the previous lifetime and what you might need to perhaps let go or aspects that you might be carrying forward. So your North Node is always directly opposing your South Node. So for me, I was a Cancer South Node. And again, when we think about Cancer, the energy is maternal. It is again referencing the moon. And what that tells me is that in a previous lifetime, I perhaps may have been too overly focused on motherhood or fatherhood. I could have been a man in the previous lifetime, but I perhaps focused quite heavily on self sacrificing myself in the name of family. So for me, it kind of feels like, and the knowledge of what I've seen in my previous lives is that I perhaps didn't necessarily have a career or have anything else to work on or to strive for because I was so heavily focused on being a family, like rearing a family. So I think that's quite it's naturally quite beautiful to me because I had that energy as I came in, and that gives a bit of language as to why I was a bit overly protective of children when I was a child myself. It also helps me to understand, or helped me to understand, that I can combine that energy with my Capricorn North Node to help people in this realm, to help people in this industry of becoming and being a guide or a parent. So you see how already there's two aspects within my personal chart that have helped to enable me to understand my purpose, my gifts, my role of service in this lifetime. And I want to share that as a working example so that you can go away and start to have a look at your chart and start to feel into what it is that you are here in this lifetime to do. Because as parents, guides, mothers, fathers, we can often get wrapped up in being of service to our children, being of service to those that need us. But there is so much more to it, and actually, they can be a part of that journey if we just understood how to balance all those energies. So I think that's lovely. Another thing that I want to share that is part of my personal astrology is about my Chiron placement. So I have a Chiron in Leo. Now, Chiron is the wounded healer. Chiron is the very thing that if we work in this lifetime to understand, transmute that pain, transform that pain, we can then become a catalyst for other people on their healing journey. We can become a guide, a leader of that specific issue that can help other people to bring it out into the world. So for me, I have a Chiron in Leo. I am a Leo rising, so it sits in my first house, me personally. So for me, what that represents is all about visibility, all about expression, and all about being seen. So a lot of wounds, and again, Chiron can give you some indication about who you might have been in a past life or experiences that you might have had. So for me, it feels like I'm very much carrying the wounds of wanting to be in isolation, the wound of not wanting to be perceived, not wanting to be heard, or being stifled within that process. So, this to me is again about a very specific overlay of how I wish my inner child was seen, perceived, witnessed, heard, and how I show up in service to other people, ensuring that they are seen, perceived, heard, and felt And that is my fundamental thing for helping parents or guides so that they can then do this work with their children so that they grow up feeling secure enough to be witnessed, safe, seen, heard, felt, all of those beautiful things. So I really wanted to give the astrological perspective of my personal journey and how I've interpreted my chart over the years and how it can be a beautiful tool for you as a guide in this lifetime to understand you on a soul level first before you then embark on understanding your child's chart. So it's a really, really beautiful way to give language to how to accept and how to work within one's own energy. So my question for you is how can you today embark on your journey of self understanding, self learning so that you can start to prepare your energy or shift your energy in the presence of you so that you can then guide your child or children effectively. Something that I feel is pertinent for me, and whilst I don't feel it's a prerequisite to becoming a guide or a parent, is that I'm confident and I stand in my truth well enough, long enough, secure enough, so that I can be a stable grounding force for my child, so that I can also be a true conduit for my child. So this is a layer that we can start to add in alongside other tools that I will start to weave in throughout this podcast that I think will be really, really helpful. So I also wanted to pull an oracle card as a way to kind of wrap up the show. I think it'd be quite nice if we can do this with every episode. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I love a good message. And it's all about me. So let's get into it. So I'm using the divine. Hopefully, I can include these in my show notes. So we have the cosmic egg, the divine feminine. I hold the universe within me. I am the force of an ever expanding love. And I think this card is beautiful because this is about the original incarnation. This is about us returning back to source, returning back to the very moment that we were conceived, remembering who we agreed to be in this lifetime, who we signed up to be, so that we can truly, truly embody our soul's essence and our soul's calling. And I absolutely love that for this first episode. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being present. And I'm so looking forward to seeing where this journey takes us. Until the next time, bye bye.